such an accurate description.
Yeah.
He is firmly in that glob for me.
Firmly in the glob.
It was a little bit disappointing this year. He didn't take that step up, but now he has cemented himself as, I'm not trying to project a breakout for Dawson Knox. There's some safety in what he's going to provide, and you can stream him pretty much any given week if you want to.
Jones gets hit, throws it left, caught by Slayton, down the left sideline, 15, 10, 5, touchdown Giants! Darius Slayton!
Speaking of Darius Slayton, how are we feeling about this New York Giants wide receiving core this upcoming year? I think a lot of question marks there.
Yeah, it's pretty much garbage right now, but if they were able to do it last season with what they had, I think Waller's going to open up a lot of different possibilities and avenues. So who knows? They could still be good, but I think they're going to invest heavily in the draft in some bona fide receivers.
I think so too. You think you guys think Sterling Shepard or Darius Slayton can make their way to fantasy relevance this year?
I can't see anything happening with Shepard after an ACL and then an Achilles. I mean, that's just seems almost insurmountable, and it really sucks because I love his story. Slayton, maybe, but if they go out and get somebody in the draft, I don't really think so.
So when the hell did Sterling Shepard turn 30? I just feel like he's still 26.
On his birthday.
Oh, thanks, Joey. But he's the kind of player, it's probably because we haven't seen maybe complete seasons get put together with the level of hype that we've had for Sterling Shepard in the past, that it doesn't, I don't view him as a failure. You know what I mean? We see some of these players in the NFL and it feels like they've gotten older even though they're not performing. I just view him as hasn't broken out yet, but he's 30 years old. It's probably not happening.
Make bets and follow your fantasy team while you buy, sell, and trade collectibles in real time. Only on Better Sports Network.
We are back right here, Lisa and Rick Kamla on Better Sports Live. As we promised, we bring you Eric Balkman, who you can follow at Eric Balkman, host of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show right here on Better Sports Network, co-host of the show with Leo and Balky on 95.3, 99.1 in Wisconsin. Eric, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Eric, we know we got the life-changing event that starts tomorrow, which is the NFL draft. We will be obsessing over it. We'll be looking at how it maps out for teams. We'll be deciding which players are going to be on our best ball leagues, which players are going to land in our redraft leagues. But before that, we know what's happened in New York. The Jets finally land Aaron Rodgers. I want to ask you, do you think Aaron Rodgers can take this team further, which was more than the Jets fans expected last season, than they went last season?
Yeah, can he, Lisa? Definitely he can. Will he? I'm not so sure. And the reason is not necessarily an indictment on Aaron Rodgers. I think that thumb injury that he suffered against the Giants last year that he gutted through really took a lot away from what he could have been, what the Packers offense could have been last year. So I don't really, he was coming off a down year, but I think it's more due to injury than anything else. That thumb's healed now. The history of 40-year-old quarterbacks in the NFL is not great. You had Brett Favre, who had a couple of good years. Warren Moon actually had a really good year as well. Outside of that, if your name's not Tom Brady, you probably didn't play well in your 40s. Aaron Rodgers, I think, is going to have a good season with the Jets this year. I think he's got a really good team around him, not to mention the defense on the other side of the football. What I question with Rodgers is the division and the conference that he moves to now. You have the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC that look like the class of the conference. And the Niners always seem to figure a way to do some damage in the playoffs. Outside of that, Cowboys, Giants, Vikings. I mean, to me, you got a lot of, I don't want to call them fake teams, but maybe fake Super Bowl contenders in the NFC. Over in the AFC, I mean, my God, you got to deal with Patrick Mahomes. The Chargers, obviously, on the come up right now, too, with Kellen Moore running that offense. You have Joe Burrow and the Bengals. I would think Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are going to figure it out, so he'll be there as well. I like the Sean Payton add to Denver. I think he helps Russell Wilson bounce back this year. That's all outside his division. In his own division, he's got to deal with Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. I really like what Mike McDaniel's doing in Miami, obviously, and if Tua Tagovailoa stays healthy there, the Dolphins are going to be a tough team this year. So I think while he probably is with a better team in New York, and I think they do much better this year, with Rodgers at quarterback than they had with Zach Wilson. I just don't know how far the team and how deep they can get to the Super Bowl. Now, it just matters, just get to the playoffs and anything can happen. But my goodness, the gauntlet for the Jets to make it to the Super Bowl this coming year with all those other great AFC teams, I don't know if it's going to happen.
Eric, who emerges as the number one wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers? Will it be Aaron Rodgers' guy, Allen Lazard, in what seemingly is a package deal? Will it be Garrett Wilson, who is the more talented and more highly drafted wide receiver? They have Mecole Hardman as well. They may take somebody in the draft here. So who do you is it Garrett Wilson, do you, or are you looking at Lazard?
I think it's Wilson. And I think if you look at how FFPC drafters have been handling this Jets situation, to me, Rick, they've already been like the whole offseason. Like the FFPC, we've had drafts going on since January. And really ever since then, these high stakes drafters have been selecting Garrett Wilson as if Aaron Rodgers was already going to be there. At least the quarterback play would be much more improved than what it was last year with Zach Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson is going to have a fantastic season with Aaron Rodgers. I do think Allen Lazard is a little bit underrated, much in the same way he was underrated in Green Bay. That guy is, to me, clearly, inarguably a top 5 blocking wide receiver in the NFL. He does that so well. And what happens, I don't get points for that, but what happens, he's out on the field a ton. And you don't know if Allen Lazard is out there. You don't necessarily know if that's a giveaway, if it's going to be a running play or a passing play that you would get with Mecole Hardman's out there. You pretty much know, and he's running a 9 route, right? And it's going to be a passing play. So I think Allen Lazard is sneaky. You could definitely get him in the mid rounds right now. I don't necessarily know if I would count on him in a best ball league because I don't know how many spike weeks he's going to give you. But Garrett Wilson's going to be an absolute beast this year. I think Lazard is a little bit underrated as far as depth goes. Sure, pick him up because I think he's going to have a solid season. But man, Garrett Wilson is if it's possible, Rick, he's even going to go higher in FFPC high stakes drafts now.
Wow.
Oh, we're joined by Britt Flinn, who feels that he could go as top 5 wide receiver. So that's some money in the bank right there. You mentioned Miami. We're talking to Eric Balkman. Follow at Eric Balkman. You mentioned Miami. Miami already shored up their backup with Mike White, just preventative for Tua. We saw Tua come on. When he's healthy, he's great. Miami doesn't get a pick in the first round of this draft. Does that have any impact, or do you think that Miami's sitting pretty? Tyreek fit in really well there last year. Again, Tua had big games. Mike White's a great backup. What's your outcome for Miami, who's going to be the first team missing out on a pick in a first round over a situation?
It's interesting because I think they're still trying to do something on offense, and that something might be a trade involving Dalvin Cook to come to the from the Vikings to come to the Dolphins. I think there's a non-zero chance of that happening, which would really give Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill a lot of free reign to run wild in those secondaries. Mike Gesicki moved on to New England. I think his absence and his departure is a little bit overrated because, you got to be able to block in Mike McDaniel's offense, and Mike Gesicki is just not a blocker. So he moves on. I don't know how many more targets that frees up with Waddle and Hill, but they're going to be beasts again this coming year. You add, even if you don't get Cook, I like Mostert and I like Wilson there. I think that they can do enough to get the job done. Probably need to improve the offensive line a little bit. They're chasing Buffalo right now. I think Bradley Chubb, when he came over from Denver last season, didn't really live up to expectations, or at least my expectations of what I thought he was going to be on that defense. I think he bounces back this year. I think he has a really solid season, full year with Miami now and full off season with them. So I like the Dolphins. I think that they are a fringe playoff team. I think they are clearly behind the Buffalo Bills, and they do need to make some adjustments, and they got to improve in the draft somehow. They got to get some difference makers, whether that's on special teams or whether that's on the defensive side of the football. They have some ammo. I don't know if it's enough to get them into, a top 4, top 5 team in the AFC, but they're going to do their darndest, and I think they got a really good coach there.
Eric, let's talk NFL draft here. Where do you want to see Bijan Robinson go? The top running back in this draft. We're all Eric, I don't know how much college football you watch. I watch all the games every Saturday. I've been enamored with this guy for 2 years. I've been waiting on this dude to come to the league for 2 years, man. So here we go. I presume tomorrow night we're going to find out his new team. I think he will be a first-round pick. So where do you want him to go? Where do you think he will go?
Well, I'll start with the latter. I think that he will indeed go to Atlanta, which seems to be everybody's popular pick right now. Arthur Smith is a guy who loves tight ends and he loves running the football, at least with what we saw in Tennessee was any guide. And he's going to get the opportunity. I think Bijan Robinson falls to 8. I think that, he goes there. He's already, Rick, a top 10 pick in redraft leagues in the FFPC. That's not going to change. As far as his dynasty outlook, I think it would be intriguing to see him go to Detroit because I just don't think that the Lions believe that Swift is ever going to be a 3-down guy.
Neither do I, Eric. Neither do I.
Yeah, and they're seeing him like every day. So I trust your judgment, Rick. I trust their judgment too. And for whatever reason, I have him in a couple of dynasty leagues. I've been ticked off, but I understand why he's not out on the field more. So I think Detroit would be interesting. I think ultimately, and this is probably a pipe dream, but he asked me what team I want him to go to. My God, Rick, if he could fall all the way to 28 and have the Bengals scoop Bijan Robinson up, obviously at that point, we know that Joe Mixon's time is probably done in Cincinnati, but you get Bijan Robinson in that backfield, an offensive line that I think underperformed last year. I think it's going to be better this year. Along with Jamar Chase, they're going to figure out a way to get T. Higgins out there. Tyler Boyd's still there. And Joe Burrow, I mean, that is a monolithic offense that all of a sudden you have there at Bijan Robinson, and he's going to have a lot of opportunities to score a lot of touchdowns there. I don't think it's going to happen, but if the slide starts, you never know. I'd love to see him go to Cincinnati.
Well, Eric, you're in Wisconsin, but it seems to be that you are a Cincinnati Bengals fan. Am I correct?
No. I am a fan is short for fanatic. I am not a fanatic for the Packers, but the Green Bay is definitely my team.
Yeah, they kind of have to be your team.
Right.
So we're looking at, Bryce Young going number 1, seeing some other quarterbacks. What team in the first round, what do you think you're going to see the earliest trade up for a pick?
I think, number 2 is not out of the question. If not number 2, I could see number 3. So I could see, we're getting it's the week before the draft, is sort of when this nonsense started. You don't know what to believe and what not to believe. The Texans, if they pass on, a quarterback, whether that be Levis or Stroud or Richardson or whatever, they pass on a quarterback there. I could definitely see somebody moving up to grab him. Obviously the Colts, if they want to trade up from 4 to 2 to make sure they get their guy, I could definitely see that. If a quarterback doesn't go off the board at 2, assuming we see Bryce Young go number 1, and then Houston decides to keep their pick, and then they choose, Will Anderson or somebody like that, and then all of a sudden the market for number 3 becomes white hot because the Cardinals aren't taking a quarterback there, and somebody else could trade up and get their choice of 3 other quarterbacks. So I think it could be early. I think the draft really starts at the 2nd position. Unless you believe this anonymous poster on Reddit who said Will Levis is going to be the number 1 pick by the Panthers because that's what he's telling his family and friends. I don't know. I leave that up to the viewers to decide. But I think the draft really starts at 2. I think that we will see at least 1 trade within the top 5, and we might see 2 trades within the top 10.
Oh, that's fun.
It's going to be a great night. It's going to be a great first round for sure.
Very interesting. Eric, who is your tight end 1 and where do you have him going?
I've gone back and forth on this, especially with Green Bay trading up in this Aaron Rodgers trade to move up from 15 to 13. They're going to have the opportunity, I think, if they decide to go tight end in the first round, they're going to have their pick between Michael Mayer and Dalton Kincaid. Initially, for me, Rick, back in December or January, when I really started looking at this, I'm like, well, it's obviously Michael Mayer. This dude is super young, and what he did at Notre Dame from a statistical standpoint at that young age, we don't often see that, right? And to me, I was like, okay, Mayer's the pick. Mayer at the same time, athletically speaking, I know he improved his relative athletic score at his Notre Dame Pro Day, but at the Combine, it wasn't great, Bob. And you have a situation with Michael Mayer doing a lot of things very good, but nothing at an elite level, which is always concerning when you're talking about soaking a top 15 pick into a player, right? Well, Dalton Kincaid is an elite pass catcher, right? And the stuff that he was able to do at Utah, I think really wowed people. The stuff that he was able to do, having, basically a fractured back, where he, he's dealing with that last year. And he actually, from what I've known or what I've read and what I've heard, It sounds like that back is fully healed. I do think it's kind of weird that he had some surgeon or doctor send a memo out to all 32 teams saying, hey, this guy's back is good. He has no, restrictions on this at all. That's like a methinks thou doth protest too much. Like if you're sending that out, like, okay, just let the teams figure out if they
evaluate.
Think
right. They've done this. They've done this before. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. So I kind of gone back and forth. I think because of the age, I think Kincaid's almost 2 full years older than Michael Mayer. I think, guys, if I'm going to if I'm the GM of a team, I think I like Michael Mayer better. However, if I'm the GM of a dynasty fantasy football team, I like the upside more with Dalton Kincaid. I think his ceiling is higher. Even though he is older, I would probably draft Kincaid in a fantasy league. But, man, if I'm the GM of the team, I think Michael Mayer is going to be a really good pick.
Eric, we know the Philadelphia Eagles made it all the way to the Super Bowl. I still blame a lot of this on the sod father. I'm still bitter.
I know a lot of people who agree with you, Lisa.
I am still on this heat. I've followed every single story. It was the field was trash, and Arizona has a great field. No players have ever complained about it before. But beside that, the Eagles made it this far. I thought Bijan would be the perfect pick for Philadelphia, but it doesn't seem like Bijan's still going to be there. What move do you think Philadelphia should make to shore up getting back to the Super Bowl again this year? I'm a Cowboys fan. Doesn't feel good to have this kind of honest conversation, but they have a much greater chance than my Dallas Cowboys do. Because you called my Cowboys, I think, like
they're a fake
team.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, obviously, Green Bay Packer fan. Mike McCarthy is coaching the team right there, so there is some connection to it. I think Dallas has, probably their best defense they've had in quite a while. I'm not really sure what happened on offense last year. I'm a little bit nervous about if they're putting too much stock into Tony Pollard. I would expect them, the Cowboys, to go after a running back in this draft to help supplement that. And maybe Ezekiel Elliott comes back. I don't know what's going to happen there. You asked about the Eagles. I'll tell you this. Never underestimate Howie Roseman in this draft. That dude wheels and deals all over the place. I could see them trading up to grab a player that they really want. I think the Bijan Robinson thing, if he was able to go to Philly, man, I'd love that too. The issue with that is the Eagles historically like to use a running back by committee. So that kind of neuters Bijan Robinson's value a little bit. And then the other thing too is, how many starters did they lose on defense to free agency? I mean, they got to really replenish what they have on defense. So I could see them, getting a pass rusher, getting a defensive lineman. Certainly, I think you could look at potentially a corner there as well. I don't know. I don't think Devon Witherspoon will still be there, but Christian Gonzalez might. So I could see that. The other guy I think that would be kind of interesting there is Nolan Smith, a guy who a lot of people said before the 2022 NFL draft that Nolan Smith would have been a top 5 pick. He wasn't eligible to come out, so he had to stay in Georgia another year. And what happens, stays at Georgia, wins a national championship, but he tears his pec halfway through the season. He's recovering from that right now. Nolan Smith is an interesting guy in the fact that I think he's kind of a hybrid player. I don't think you can just count on this guy as an edge rusher every play. I don't know how good he is in coverage. But I think he is fungible enough, especially with how that Eagles defense works. I think he'd be an interesting guy for Philly to take and just kind of like move him all over, sort of like Hassan Reddick a little bit, and just, weaponize this guy and, hide his weaknesses, accentuate his strengths, and he could be a real difference maker on the Philadelphia defense. I think Eagles fans would be pretty happy with Nolan Smith.
That's who, Eric, I am mocking to the Eagles at number 10. I've got Nolan Smith. Going to them. I've got Brian Branch, the safety out of Alabama, going to they need a safety in this first round. That is one need that Philadelphia actually has. Their roster is pretty much bad to the bone and airtight with that exception. Is Jackson Smith-Njigba, Eric, your number 1 wide receiver in this draft? And if not, who is? And where do you have JSN going in this draft?
Yeah, he is for sure. I always go back to this, that this guy was breaking Ohio State receiving records and Big Ten receiving records, not this past year, but 2 years ago, which is more impressive because he had 2 first-rounders on that same team in the wide receiver room. Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, and this guy was the best of the bunch. Now, I've heard the narrative about this guy's just a slot guy. That's all he's going to be in the NFL. Well, that's what a lot of people said about Justin Jefferson.
It's so wrong.
Yeah,
tell him it's so wrong. They didn't even watch him play. He's not just a slot guy. Golly.
Right. And I'm totally with you on this. I think he is going to be a stud. Now, I think if he slips to Green Bay at 13, there is a chance. And I've read some reports that part of the reason that Green Bay wanted to move up from 15 to 13, I don't know how true these are, was because they wanted a better shot at JSN. I don't think he gets to 13. I think that if he's there at 12, man, you got Nico Collins and John Mechie and then a whole lot of nothing in that Houston wide receiver core after Brandon Cooks moves on to Lisa's Cowboys. You look at what Jackson Smith-Njigba could be for whatever quarterback they put there, whether they're going to run it back with Davis Mills another year, whether they're going to take Stroud or Richardson or Levis. I mean, that guy would be a perfect safety blanket and a guy who can still stretch the field too. A dynamic guy who creates space, gets open, great hands. I mean, there's not a whole lot to not like about Jackson Smith-Njigba. So I think if he falls to 12, Houston would probably take him there. I think you could think about Tennessee maybe taking him at 11, but I think Houston at 12 is where JSN ends up.
All right, Eric Balkman, I got a great one for you here. Okay. Player in the first round that's going to make the most fantasy impact this season.
Ooh, well, it's Robinson for sure. I would say Smith-Njigba. I would say this is if you're talking about like an FFPC redraft league, the top 2 rookies going would be, and this is not Superflex, top 2 rookies going would be Robinson and Smith-Njigba, right? After that, boy, I'm not sure. I think that Mayer and Dalton Kincaid, I think they both go in the first round. And obviously with the FFPC, you have tight end premium scoring. So they're getting 1.5 points per catch for every reception they make. So I think that they would, be in the conversation for that. I think that if you look at the receivers, if the Buffalo Bills end up taking somebody like, Josh Downs or somebody like that later in the first round, all of a sudden you're talking about this guy usurping Gabe Davis's role in that offense and maybe having a big time season opposite Stephon Diggs with Josh Allen throwing to it. So I think he'd be in the conversation. And I would not rule out, and I think this is mostly, just smoke. There's no fire here, but I should bring it up. I would not rule out Jahmyr Gibbs, who I know has been rumored to go to the Dolphins, maybe even going ahead of Bijan Robinson. I don't think it happens. But, guys, if Jahmyr Gibbs is the first running back taken in this draft over Robinson, he is going to have a massive impact on fantasy leagues, both dynasty and redraft. So I would say that, give the caveat, he's got to go in the first round, but all of a sudden he enters the conversation as maybe the most impactful guy. 199 pounds, probably never going to be a 3-down guy, but his pass catching skills are elite as he showed at 2 different schools. So I like Gibbs here.
If somebody took Jahmyr Gibbs over Bijan Robinson, it would be maybe worse than Bill Belichick's dumbass. Do you know where I'm going here, Eric? Do you know where I'm going here?
Keep going. I think I'm on the right trail. I just can't see the destination yet.
Then Bill Belichick's dumbass taking Sony Michel over Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
How does he still have a job? I'm kidding with that. I'm kidding. I joke. I have some jokes from time to time. But I mean, one of the worst draft picks I've ever seen. You got 2 Georgia backs. Oh my God. Sony Michel's not even in the league anymore. Nick Chubb is going to run. I think Nick Chubb's going to have a phenomenal year this year without Hunt being there to siphon some touches. Anyway, let me reel it in here. Are you a Jalen Hyatt guy, Eric? To me, he's a polarizing guy in this draft. I love me some Jalen Hyatt. Do you?
I do not actually. And this is a player that I know that the Packers have. I don't think they've met with him, but I know that they've been a lot of people have mocked Jalen Hyatt to the Packers in the second round. The 2 red flags that stand out to me. Number 1, the offense that he was in at Tennessee isn't exactly the best translation to NFL offense. So it's difficult for me to get a good gauge on him there. And number 2, the guy is so fast that it wasn't ever really relied upon to run a wide route tree at Tennessee. He didn't have to because he was like, even when you knew Jalen Hyatt was going to be running a 9 route down the sideline, he would still run by you. So he didn't necessarily have to have that route tree polish. Now, speed kills. You can't teach speed. And I think that if he goes in the second round, if all he ever is a Ted Ginn, Deshaun Jackson speed merchant in the NFL, that might be good enough to justify a second-round pick when you consider how long of a career that those guys had. From a fantasy football standpoint, he, to me, is never going to be the type of guy that is ever going to be a wide receiver one. He's never going to be a top 12 wide receiver, which is why I'm kind of down on him. He might fit the role for whoever drafts him and then whoever signs him to a second contract. I think he's got some talent. I just think he's got a lot to work on here. It's a weaker wide receiver class, so maybe you can make the case that Hyatt should be drafted high among the receivers. He's not one of my favorite guys. I can see why people do like him, though.
Eric Balkman, we thank you so much for joining us tonight. Everybody can follow you at Eric Balkman. Eric, where can everyone find you and listen to you?
Yeah, you mentioned 95.3, 99.1 Appleton, Oshkosh in Wisconsin. We're about a couple of Jordan Love Hail Marys southwest of Lambeau Field here. That's where we do the show from. I have the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour Friday nights at the FFPC YouTube channel, youtube.com/FFPC Fantasy. Which is where I also do the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown weekly during the NFL season. And of course, the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show every Thursday night, bettersports.com, that you can catch from 7 to 9 p.m. And of course, I'll be anchoring coverage for Better Sports, the Better Sports Network, coming up on Friday from 7 to 9. Andrew Cooper, Mark Malusis, and a host of others. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to having you again. This is just a great time of the year. We got NBA playoffs. We got the NFL draft, NHL. It's all so good, and we appreciate you coming on. I want to remind you all that the Better Sports Network app has the best NFL draft experience you're going to find. Join us Thursday and Friday night to follow all the picks, chat with fans, and play our live draft game. Get instant fantasy football and betting analysis as the picks are announced. Answer predictive questions and compete for your chance to win fabulous prizes. Pre-draft coverage begins Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern and Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. The 2023 NFL Draft Bettercast. Download the Better Sports Network app for free right now in the Apple app and Google Play stores. We're going to get back and talk about what's happening in the NBA. I haven't looked. I've been on the NFL news right here, so I don't want any spoilers. Don't even tell me right now, Rick. You're listening to Lisa Ann and Rick Kamla on Better Sports Live on the Better Sports Network.
Moose and Keith, weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern on Better Sports Network.
Calvin Ridley yesterday, he applied for reinstatement from the National Football League.
Ridley, Kirk, Zay Jones, Travis Etienne, Trevor Lawrence. That is crazy potent on offense.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I mean, Ridley's great.
I think Trevor Lawrence is a guy I want in fantasy this year.
I think you're probably right. I think they're just going to get better and better. First off, Peterson's a wonderful offensive mind, a great head coach, and we've seen that and saw that this year as Jacksonville made it to the postseason. And Trevor Lawrence, anybody that questioned whether or not he could play in the National Football League or just how good he was going to be in the NFL, those questions were answered this past season as in the second half of the year. Statistically speaking, he was a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. That's how good Trevor Lawrence is. You throw Calvin Ridley into the mix, he's going to be great. Yeah, I think Lawrence is a guy you want. I think Ridley's a guy you want. Clearly, Travis Etienne is going to be one of those early, first-round selections as well, being the dual threat running back that he is, not only running, but also catching the ball out of the backfield, Keith, and the ability to take something small and take it to the house. Take a 5-yard dump pass, make a guy miss in the open field, and he's gone. I mean, you saw that with Travis Etienne this past season for Jacksonville. Yeah, sky's the limit. I mean, I think you're going to go from a team in the year span where you wanted no part of the Jacksonville Jaguars when you're looking at fantasy football to where you want as many Jaguars as you possibly can because they're going to be really, really productive. And let's see if they get their tight end back as well, who had
Evan Ingram was great.
And Evan Ingram, who was great this past season.
Yeah. I mean, if they keep that whole core together, their offense is going to be one of the best in football. Like, I legitimately think that they could be one of the best offenses in football.
Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk, then
and Ridley,
Travis Etienne, Trevor Lawrence, a good offensive line, and you've got Doug Peterson being creative calling.
Right?
And you look at that division. The Colts are a mess.
Yep.
Titans
look like they're on the downslide.
Titans are on the downslide, right? That window is clearly closed. And then you got the Houston Texans.
Years away from relevancy.
Yeah.
I mean, Jacksonville could win 11 games next year.
Moose and Keith. Weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern on Better Sports Network.
And we are back. Lisa Ann and Rick Kamla right here on Better Sports Live on the Better Sports Network. And the roar of the city must be real out there. The Knicks advance for the first time since 2013. The score 106-95. No regret now about Donovan Mitchell. Let's go, New York Knicks.
Wow. This one's a tough one, LA. This one's a tough one.
What's tough about it? You didn't see it coming? You thought the Cavs were going to win this series, didn't you? It throws your whole thing off.
It throws my whole thing off.
It does. It's like doing a bracket. You're like, this isn't really that I care as much as it throws my whole thing off. I had a concept here. You could end up with the same two teams that you
are so funny, man.
But it's so real, funny. Right? It threw your thing off.
It threw a wrench in my whole thing over here. Yeah, I had the Cavs in 7. How'd that work out? I'm shocked. I really am. Okay, the Knicks did what I thought the Knicks would do. Play with grit, blue collar team and get multiple, contributions from a variety of places and Brunson clutch. Cleveland crapped the bed in this series. Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. And look, Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein don't grab any headlines at all. They are a phenomenal defensive tandem at the center position. They completely neutered Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, both of them. These guys, Allen and Mobley, combined for 10 points tonight, LA. 10.
Yeah. Mobley, 39 minutes. Allen, 36 minutes. I mean, this is crazy. Not – you can play like this in one of your 40 games of the season. You can't play like this in the playoffs.
You can't. So you got to give credit to New York and the defense that they play on big men. But you also have to look at Allen and Mobley and be like, what the hell? You also have to look at Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. Because big men don't handle the ball. They need the smalls to pass the ball to them. And that didn't happen in this series, LA. So it's not all their fault, but I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, go get offensive rebounds. Do something. 10 damn points from 2 guys in a combined 75 minutes for Mobley and Allen. And they had 10 points.
And you also got to
work in any place.
You got to give the Knicks credit in the sense that Randall only got to put in 16 minutes before the ankle injury. You got players putting in 47, 42, and 36 minutes and just staying out there consistently get it done. Barrett looked great tonight with 21 points. I mean, 12 rebounds for Hart. 12 rebounds. You're getting it done. There's no double-digit rebounds, assists, steals, or anything for the Cavs. This is a bummer for Cavs fans losing at home. I'm sure they're going to, burn things outside of the arena.
Be careful with that. When you play with fire, you get burned. It's disrespectful to these players. This is a bad look for Donovan Mitchell, LA. It is. Okay. Let's talk narratives for a minute here. This is a bad look. All right. You could never get over the hump with Utah. And now you are unable to get over the hump with Cleveland, even though you had a better record than New York. Even though all the expectations were on your side, you were the favorite, and once again, you lost. Okay? I'm still a Donovan Mitchell fan, and he's still a young guy with a chance to change all of this. Sure. But right now, the playoff chapter of the Donovan Mitchell book is not a good read right now, LA. It's not. You lost to the Clippers without Kawhi that year, and he had a wrenched ankle himself. But Paul George beat you that year. And that year, they led the NBA in wins. They had the #1 record. And now you're with the Cavs, a hotshot team all year. You win 51 games, I think it was. Yes, 51 games. And you get smoked in 5 games by the Knicks. What the hell is that? You lose 2 home games in this series? They had an unbelievable home record, LA. Arguably the best home court advantage in the East.
The Knicks played them really well at home that first game they played in Cleveland. The Knicks played really well. They brought it. And the energy in MSG is unbelievable to watch during these series. You see it on TV, you can feel it. But the way they played on the road was incredible. Obviously, the Lakers want to win this next game at home because there's absolutely no excuse for 106-84 with 8 minutes and 15 seconds left in the fourth quarter. There's no excuse. You've got LeBron James, you got D'Lo, you got Anthony Davis. There's no excuse for this spread.
There's not. The end of the third quarter, LA, it was a massive eruption for Memphis. And I'm working with you, so I wasn't able to all right, it was a 17-1 run or something like that, but it felt like a 17-1 run. Bucket after bucket after bucket after bucket. So it was like a big spread. I don't know, 14 or 18 or something through 3 quarters, LA. I'm sorry that I'm wonky with the math here. But then you go to the fourth quarter, and they've continued to pile it on. Right now, they're in a 7:42 to go. It's a 22-point lead for Memphis, and I did not expect the Lakers to win this game. LA, I didn't. I thought it would be closer than this, but I'm really not all that surprised. We talked about this. This was a gravy game for the Lakers, or a greed game. You're up 3-1. You can lose this game, and you're still in great shape.
Of course. But you know what I'm disappointed about? I'm disappointed about Dylan Brooks, he's only got 8 points. So I feel like he can't be the villain tonight, even though he rightfully should. They're putting the smackdown down on LeBron, but he would have to outscore LeBron to be able to put that kind of smack talk out there. But he is making it exciting, and this is a deficit, but he can't take any credit for it. So what does Dylan Brooks do now?
How about you address the media after the game, LA? How about that? The last 2 games, both Memphis losses, he has ducked the media after the game.
He gets fined for that, right?
I believe so, but I didn't hear. But I didn't see any reporting about that.
Right.
Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I think in theory they do. Do they actually follow through and fine them?
Yeah,
I don't know, but they should.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to take money out of ball players' pockets. And I think if you're
but dude, if it's part of your job, you kind of have to do it. It'd be like one of us saying, you know what? I'm not showing up for the last segment, bro. I just don't feel like it. You know what I mean? That is the last segment of your game. You get in the shower, you put on your little outfit, and you go out there and, you bring a mystery drink. There's players now trying to bring their own swag that they're doing influencer work for. Well, we all know Gatorade is the official sponsor of all of this. It's the label has to be facing a certain way. Was it D'Lo the other night that brought out a drink that nobody had seen before? And everybody's like, what's he doing? Drinking his favorite drink. Well, this isn't a good look. I get it. The Lakers want to win it. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with LeBron wanting his family there, all of his friends, the hoopla, make a big deal of it as if we didn't know this was going to happen. Fine. But don't lose by 20 points.
Look, I agree. LeBron James he's the guy having the low motor game tonight. Maybe he's entitled to it after the first 20-point, 20-rebound game of his entire career, which is still a shocking statistic for me. Yeah. I'm actually surprised to see Anthony Davis still out here right now. James is as well. But I'm behind live. I'm like 2 minutes behind live here. Maybe they've emptied the bench at this point. Again,
D'Lo not putting up a lot of points with 11, but you got to give the kid credit. 10 assists. I'd like to see that. If you know that you're having an off shooting night, which does happen, we have off days in radio. Do you ever go to do your show and you realize your brain isn't as sharp one day? I mean, you do this 5 days a week, Rick, on NBA radio. There have to be days where your motor isn't running as hard or your voice isn't as clear or whatever it may be. That's an off night. But D'Lo's like, okay, I'm not shooting well. I'm going to be a facilitator. 10 assists.
Yeah. I think you could probably relate with this. We're in the performance business. We're in show business. And I don't believe in bad shows. You know what I'm saying, LA? I'm sure you feel the exact same way. I literally just don't believe in them. Let's take a brief detour down Rick Kamla corporate job boulevard. Okay. Once upon a time, I had a corporate job in a cube, in a financial institution, the whole thing. Right. Thank you, God, for rescuing me. Thank you. And so, that wasn't for me. This sports media thing is definitely for me. But the corporate the corporate thing, it wasn't for me, LA. It wasn't for me. So I don't have anything else to say about that, because I really don't want to super bang on it, because, we've got some people that work in corporate America, and, God bless y'all. It
not
just
for
wasn't
everybody
for me.
though. Right. I can't go to the same place every day. That's one of my biggest things in life. It's like, I can't go to the same place every day. I knew that as a kid because I would watch my parents go to the exact same place. We lived in a small town. They took the same route. And I can remember saying to both my parents, like, aren't you bored of driving to the same place every single day? Like, to them, they thought nothing of it. And it was Peggy who would say to me, well, you're just different. And that means that you should chase that being different. I'm different. So I would do the post-game presser if I was Dylan Brooks. If 3 days ago I was swagging in sunglasses and I called somebody old, I know that I still have to stand up, right? We all make dummy mistakes, or at least own it, but not doing the presser and not putting it all out there. I got to say, Jaws just having a day. Bane, 33 points. I mean, gosh, a couple more stats there and he's going in. I'm just surprised. I'm surprised the Lakers are going to walk it off like this. Now, they'll go in hard when they get back to LA and they'll win this series. Or do you think there's a chance that Memphis could do what the Knicks just did and surprise you?
Yes. I think the Lakers are going to win game 6, but I thought the Cavaliers were going to win tonight's game, LA. Okay. And I thought the Bucks were going to beat the Heat the other night. And by the way, so did most of the basketball world. We are getting a lot. I will say this definitively right now. This is the most unpredictable first round I've ever seen. Okay. When you zig, they zag. When you zag, they zig. I'm telling you right now.
Great games. This,
yes.
I'm glad I'm not watching, right? Like, I'm gonna watch the 10 o'clock game, but this is a game where I'd be like, oh, this is a snooze fest. It's like the only game. I'll tell you exactly when it was. I was so bummed because, I'm working, but I always am checking my stats. And my guy that travels with me, he and I were both doing the same thing. Like, all right, we got a little downtime. We'll get to watch this game. It was a game that was so bad. It was Saturday. I want to say it was Saturday night, and it was the only game that was awful. Yeah. And I was like, this is the game we get. It was the Bucks Heat game. And I'm like, really, this is the game we got to watch? Like, the only one we get to choose from? Game selection's awful. I'm glad I'm not watching this game because I'd want to change the channel.
That was not a good game. That was not really entertaining. Just quickly on that corporate America thing, LA. Like, when you work in a cube, and I work for Merrill Lynch, okay? I found, at least, that there were days that you could absolutely mail it in.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Like, absolutely. Just choose that. I don't feel like going to work today, okay? But I don't want to call out. So I'll show up, but I ain't working hard today. Or you just say, I'll give you C effort today, right? I'll work. I'll do a little bit of work here, but I'm going to give you C effort today. So that's how it was in corporate America. I basically broke off enough just to get by, okay? I gave him B work. I didn't give him A work. Why would I give him A work? I don't want to be there very long. I wanted a job in sports. But we're in the performance business. Like, you know what I'm saying? There are no days off. There are no bad days because you could get Wally pipped. The show goes on no matter what. We all know this, man. So it's a totally different mindset. But yeah, I punted a lot of days back when I was in corporate America. Probably wasted a whole lot of money for Merrill Lynch too.
Oh, they're used to it. Believe me, the averages, they're used to people doing that. But Lakers picking up momentum a little bit right now, 106-91. But this game is done. What's going to be interesting for the Knicks is finding out what is the news with Julius Randle. Will he be able to play? The good news is they get a little bit of extra downtime right now. The downside is it is the same ankle.
So the Knicks may end up, like the Cheshire Cat here, like Joel Embiid and Philly are with the Boston series going longer with Atlanta. And now Reeves is limping around a little bit here at the end of the game. At some point, Darvin's going to have to pull the plug and get his starters out here because they ain't coming back. This ain't happening for them tonight. But for the Knicks, LA, they're going to play the winner of Milwaukee and Miami. I believe that Milwaukee is going to win tonight and then win game 6 and then win game 7. That is, and now Anthony Davis is down grabbing his back and his hip area. So what the Knicks are going to have here, I believe, is almost a week off. for Julius Randle to get that ankle right. And so the longer Milwaukee plays with Miami, the better for the New York Knicks. And we know this. Julius Randle's a tough guy, man. And so he's going to be out there playing at some point. The question is effectiveness.
And let's face it, he hasn't been 100% since he's been back playing, but he's been playing hard. He's got a lot of love for the team, and man, the fans love him as well.
Oh yeah. I think a lot of them do. I don't think a lot of them love him enough, but Julius Randle didn't do himself any favors, LA. When he got benched for the fourth quarter on Sunday in Game 4, sulking on the sideline, walking out, not addressing the media. It's a bad look, okay? Your team just got basically the series-ending win to go up 3-1. We know it's a 95% chance you win, and tonight they completed that. But be a leader, okay? Be happy your team won. Thibodeau is not going to go to Obi Toppin over you every game. That's what that game required. Go with the flow of it. Your team won the game. If they lost and you want to be pouted up, I guess I would get that more, but your team won. You're up 3-1. You're moving on. You're going to be back in the starting lineup for Game 5, which he was, and then he blows another tire here tonight. So, but I'm a Julius Randle guy, LA. I don't think he gets enough credit in New York City. I do not.
He does here. I don't think he gets credit elsewhere. I think he does here. There's a lot of fans, a lot of jersey wearing Julius Randle fans.
It's good to hear.
I just pulled up a note on that I had put together while I was watching Embiid. So it was a day or two after the Draymond technical, then suspension. Embiid kind of did the same thing, and it was quite a bit of ruckus. It is amazing how it seems like there's a magnifying, glass on players when these things happen. And Draymond always seems to get, like, no matter what, if Draymond's getting a technical, he's one step closer than missing a game. Did you notice that? Did you see that with Embiid? And what did you think of that play?
No, you're talking about the kick to the junk of Nick Claxton, right?
I am.
So he should have been ejected from that game. And it's contextual, okay? Hear me out. I don't think that that's a flagrant foul too, what he did, okay? Claxton dunked on him, walked over him, and Embiid was like, hell nah, and went up through the gates right there. Made contact with the upper leg, and then it kind of slipped over to the groin area. It's not a flagrant foul, too. It's a flagrant foul, 1. It's unnecessary, but it's not excessive, okay? But when you throw James Harden out of that same game later on for making, I would say, somewhat gentle contact with Royce O'Neal's groin area, okay? Come on. So Embiid intentionally kicks Nick Claxton in the groin, but James Harden accidentally knocks into Royce O'Neal's groin, and James Harden gets thrown out of the game? Are you kidding me? That one took me to the twilight zone. So I didn't think either of them were flagrant foul 2s. I thought Embiid's was an FF1. I thought Harden was just a personal foul, not even a tech.
Well, what was great was, even though that game wasn't a game that we thought was going to go anywhere, I don't really think the Nets were going any further. The chippiness in that game was awesome.
It was fun.
It was
no
fun.
doubt about
it. It was like, okay, must watch, cannot move from this television till commercial. We're going to get a standalone in this. I'm looking ahead at the schedule. Now, we know tomorrow night we got tough competition because it's the NFL draft, but we got just one game, and it's going to be the Celtics. Is that tomorrow or Friday?
That's tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay, great. So we got just one game tomorrow to bounce back and forth with. What's your take on this game tomorrow night between the Celtics and the Hawks? Of course, the Hawks are back at home.
I think the Celtics are going to right the wrongs from Game 5. I think they're going to come out like a buzzsaw and win this basketball game. Trae Young has been amazing the last 3 games. Can he keep it up? Yeah, I mean, maybe. He's back at home. That definitely helps. You're going to get DeJounte Murray back. I think it's going to be a good game. I don't think Boston's going to, truck them, but I think Boston's going to win. They lost Game 3 at Atlanta, then came back and won Game 4 at Atlanta. Brown and Tatum both had 31 in that game. That's the kind of response we get here. They know that they sucked, and they took their opponent lightly, and they finished the game miserably, and they gave a win to the Atlanta Hawks. They know that the fiber of this Boston group is of championship ilk. They're going to win the ring this year, LA. And
you do think so? You still think Boston is going to win the championship?
No question. No question in my mind. And let me explain. Milwaukee and Phoenix are their two primary challengers, okay? Milwaukee might not make it out of the first round here. And we go over to Phoenix, LA. We talked about this earlier. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, best duo in the NBA.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and Chris Paul, best core four in the NBA. Okay, what else you got? Josh Okogie, Torrey Craig, Cameron Payne, Landry Shamet, Bismack Biyombo. We're all sound asleep on those guys, okay? None of them move the needle for any of us. Their bench absolutely sucks. In Boston, by the way, LA has the best 8 in the NBA. They have the best 8-man rotation in the NBA. Phoenix doesn't have an 8-man rotation. They have
the depth is definitely you're definitely there on the depth. I just remembered we should probably go back and look at Ricky's props. I'm not trying to, this isn't bad news bears, but Donovan Mitchell, all you needed was over 5.5 assists for this prop. Did he do it for you?
He did, and then he didn't. He did, and then he didn't. Let me explain. So I'm watching Lakers and Grizzlies. I'm hanging out with you. We've got guests. There's a lot going on. So I've been following the Cleveland and New York game. I watched the first half with my eyes, and the second half I've been watching on my phone. And the box score. So Donovan Mitchell, at some point in the fourth quarter, went to 6 assists. Ding! We win. And then later on in the fourth quarter, LA, they took away his assist.
Oh,
they took it away.
You had a live scoring correction.
Correct.
And you were smart. Like, you took the assist. Okay, so it went down to 5 assists.
You can't make this up. He had 6 assists. And then I refreshed and it went back to 5.
Yep, I have 5 as well. I was just refreshing for you.
So does that mean that I recently had a conversation with Amin Al-Hassan about this, and he said there's 3 layers to scorekeeping in the NBA. There's the guy or girl that keeps the score. Is it a block, a steal, whatever? There is somebody at the arena who then vets it. And then there's somebody else on the back end of that who vets it. So maybe they go back and they say, no, that actually was an assist for Donovan Mitchell. I'm very confused and mildly butthurt about this because I like to win. And we had it, and then we didn't. And it's very confusing.
I'd rather never see it and think I was under the whole time than see it. It's like, I know it's happened to you.
It hurts.
I know,
it does hurt a little bit more.
Lost a fantasy football head-to-head matchup over a scoring correction, because I have.
I can tell you the story again if you want, but it's heartbreaking to this day.
It's happened. All right, RJ Barrett, you had at Cleveland under 17.5 points. Where are we at with that one?
Well, I thought we were going to get a Julius Randle game tonight, and we were. He had LA in 16 minutes, he had 13 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists. Julius Randle was going to have a triple-double tonight, and then he got hurt. And RJ Barrett had 21 points tonight. So, we make the picks, and then the games happen.
Anthony Davis at Memphis under 35.5. That's the combo for points and rebounds.
Yeah, he obliterated that. He had
19 rebounds.
31 and 19. Like, only Anthony Davis. Only high motor, low motor, high motor, low motor, maddening Anthony Davis.
No mid-ground.
Literally a Wilt Chamberlain game, and you're getting beat by 20. Congratulations. He is the most baffling. I am never betting on him again, LA. And I don't bet like I trust me. I am emotionally invested to these picks that I deliver. I want them to win. I don't half-ass this, not even one time. I want to win, but I don't have any money on it. But I still take it hard when I lose. But Anthony Davis is just out, okay? If I would have bet on him tonight, LA, he would not be having the stat line he's having right now. I know that sounds crazy. Like, how can you actually believe that?
Is he off the court? Let me check on this. Do we have an update on Anthony Davis? Because Byron had said he was injured.
He landed hard and got up and he came back into the game. So it was
buying some time.
More fake drama from Anthony Davis is what it was.
It's buying some time, catching your breath. That's always the big thing there. Well, we've got Byron says, for all the championship in Boston this millennium, losing to the Hawks would wipe it all out.
If Boston lost to the Hawks?
Yeah.
I literally, I might retire if that happens.
Don't say that.
I mean,
Don't
like,
say
I
that.
can't
That's so dramatic.
I know, but I'm a dramatic guy. I can't, and obviously I'm joking here. I'm like,
Of
it's
course
like,
you are.
it's like, I don't know, I'm just having fun complaining with you guys here. But like, I thought the Cavaliers were going to beat the Knicks and felt really, really confident about that. These playoffs, LA, it's like the NFL playoffs. The NFL playoffs is always throwing swervy curveballs and sliders at us, right? And that's what we're getting here in the NBA playoffs. Big time.
I am going to get to go to
Anthony Davis.
The great news is the Knicks are still alive. There's another series, which is going to be twice as exciting, which means I am going to be going